Hello, everybody, and welcome to KSB TV. Today, I'm not with Avid here. Because we are making a little nerd stream today. Today, it's all about Hex and the Hex smart contract, the ins and outs of the smart contract, and how
Today it's
to
all about
predict this smart contract into the future. I also see some people in the chat. Like Hexican is there, JS is there, Far Out Aliens is also there, and I'm here with my interview partner, with Crispy Mans. How are you doing?
Hey, buddy. How you been?
Really good.
Doing good.
Uh,
Doing good.
yeah, so thanks for coming onto our stream. And as you might know, with our new interview partners on KSB TV, we always start with the same three questions. And the first one would be, when did you find out about crypto, and when did you started your journey in the crypto market?
Oh, sure, man. Well, it's pretty exciting like everybody else, right? Getting involved. So, I was one of those guys that did read the white paper when it first came out and decided not to get involved in Bitcoin, and then looked at Mt. Gox and didn't get involved with crypto at that time. And then I don't know, about 2015, I was able to find a email that I sent to somebody in Canada. Um, that I was going to send them cash in an envelope so they could send me a paper wallet, but I didn't do that either. So though that probably would have been a good investment, right? But how I did get involved is around 2017, April, between beginning of the year, started deciding, hey, this looks like something to look into, and I started with the Bitcoin maxi kind of idea, and then kind of followed the path to the full on bull market there at the end of 2017. Participated in that crash, but I had been DCAing, from about July-ish of 17, and I just kept doing that until Hex launch. Um, and through that, well, that's how I found out about crypto and got involved. Yeah. So.
Mm-hmm. So and then you already told me like the answer to the next question, like when did you heard about Hex and when did you got involved with Hex? I guess
Yeah.
you're at day one Hexican, right?
Yeah, that damn Richard Hart. Well, because if you wanted to hear good information and truth, right? You're looking for people, and I was able to listen to Richard going towards the end of 2017, a lot of good self-help stuff, and then 2018, man, I was so pissed when he called the top, and he was like, "Hey, we're in the bear," but he was right, and it just took me 2 or 3 months. Sounds familiar. Took 2 or 3 months to realize he was right. But it didn't change my plans or anything. I was just doing what I was doing, which was
Hmm.
DCA approach. And so yeah, I got to hear a little bit about the CFD token for a while, and then a little bit of talk about Bitcoin Hex and participate in some of those earlier chats and whatnot. I mean, I wasn't a significant player, but I mean, I just listening in and like we do today in the chats,
Hmm.
and then onwards to Hex launch.
All right, and then the last question would be like, what is your favorite game part of the game theory when it comes to Hex?
Yeah, that's a hard question. I just like the fact that there is so much game theory. You know, it's it's games within games. And
Mm-hmm.
clearly, and listen, if you go back and listen to the old videos, Richard describes exactly why he created things the way he did. I can't even tell you I understand everything he has to say, but I do get that sometimes I'm playing checkers, right? And he's playing chess,
Mm-hmm.
and some other people are doing that. But I would have to say that since I'm here talking about the share rate increases, I think that's probably my favorite because I've spent so much time looking into that and trying to figure out how and when share rates do increase.
Yeah, I was part of this evolvement, and I was pretty surprised as well when you told me and when you found out that mostly short-term stakers are moving the share rate, and then only like from time to time a big old stake is like spiking it a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah, and I think a lot of us had the same kind of thought, right, early on, is because we understood the thumbnail, which is the system is built in such a way that you can never, outpace, somebody else, the highest ROI, right? Because you're going to continue to build that share rate. My interpretation of that was at the time is, hey, that means that whoever earns the greatest return on investment changes the number, right? And who's going to have
Hmm.
the greatest return on investment? Well, it's going to be the biggest, longest stakes, but it kind of doesn't take into account what really goes on in the contract.
Yeah, but because the based on highest ROI is just like a easy way of explaining it, and not
Yes.
really the right way. And since like a year or something like that, I always explain it that the code just at every end stake, the code asks a question, and the question is, can this particular stake get more shares by restaking its principal plus all the accrued interest for the same amount of time again? And if this question results in a yes, then the share rate goes up. And if the question results in a no, then the share rate stays the same. That's why we also see like sometimes 2 days, even 3 days of no movement of the share rate. And that is also the reason why short stakes are moving the share rate, because uh,
Yes.
just let's take an easy example. If somebody stakes 10 million hex for 7 days, and there are no other end stakes in this week, and then he end stakes after the 7 days, the share rate would need to get out, because if he decides to restake the million plus all the accrued interest for another 7 days, he would get more shares, and that's something what cannot happen in the hex contract.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's really your initial description is a great description because that is exactly what happens. And meaning that each stake has that calculation done.
Yeah.
Each stake is calculated. And what that means is the system's not looking for big stake, little stake, long stake, short stake, doesn't care. All
Yeah.
it's looking at is the amount of yield and whether or not that yield plus original principal staked for the same number of days gives you more t-shirts. And
Hmm.
if it does, it increases the rate so you can't, right? And so it's pretty cool to watch. I've got a little panel that I'm working on eventually get up here and for those because yeah, I keep hearing people say the same thing. No, that's not true. And so rather than arguing with anybody, I'll just give you a list of all the you can go get it yourself,
Yeah.
but I'll just
Yeah.
give you a list of all the ones that did it and which how long they were staked for and how
Hmm.
much they staked, and it'll become very clear. And it's why you hear people talk about this every once in a while on sometimes on some of the streams, but also on Twitter. I see people just don't understand that these short stakers are really ratcheting up the T-share rate, and you can see it on the charts when we look at them, and you can see it in the data because we have quite a bit of people with that are staking short, and so every time a big step happens takes a couple of days because it was a big step, but then new little sticks just grow on top of it and they kind of fill
Hmm.
in. So it's kind of like having an initial stairway, which we'll show on the screen, that shows well, what all these things look like going out 15 years. But then when you look at the shorter time span, it's not like step, step, step. It's more like little steps to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fills it in.
And because you wanted to find out like exactly which address is moving the share rate or which end stake is moving it, you started to collect like a lot of data and looked into a lot of data, and then you combined everything to a new website, right?
Exactly. Well, yeah, people ask me, what am I doing? What am I working on this for? Actually, it's probably saved me a lot of time by the time I'm done because um, I'm basically taking the things that I got interested in. I was building Excel and pulling data when I wanted to look at the system, and instead of doing it that way for myself, get it onto a website somewhere where other people can see it too. And I might be the only customer. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe I'm the only one interested. But so why I'm doing it is for that purpose to go look at all that information. But and I think also, it's been almost 3 years since we launched. Technology's changed, the access has changed. to the data. I mean, some of the stuff we couldn't do 2 or 3 years ago, the way
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to do it, the way other people are doing it. So it's a good opportunity, and I think, quote unquote, free the data. You know, what better way to onboard people and give them opportunities to go look and verify for themselves?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also like it. I mean, it's not really a onboarding tool, yeah, Hexfire, but it's like a tool for yeah, active stakers if they want to find out a little bit more on how the completely decentralized Hex contract works, because there is no human involvement at all, and it's definitely, so for me it's also really interesting how everything works together, and um how that might look like in the near future or in the far future. And I mean, if you want to, let's go ahead and start the screen share, and
Sure.
let's bring up the website hexfire.io, and then let's talk about the different points you have into that. And I mean, as of right now, it's already a pretty a pretty filled website, right? So you already have like plenty of data and plenty of little things implemented in there. So I already see it. Just bring it on.
Let
Here
me
we
s-
go.
let me switch over to comments here. So, all right.
Yeah, guys. So if you have any questions of the explanation here and so on, please don't hesitate and ask anything you want in the chat.
Yeah, and thank you guys for coming and listening for a little bit. Um, so yeah, Patrick, a lot of this information, right? I granted this might not be for everybody, and if it's not for you, it's too much information. That's great. Don't concern yourself with it. But if you wanna go into it, you can go in here and dig out a lot of information about the website and what each thing is doing. And so I'm kind of making it up as I go and trying to figure that stuff out. As Jay was asking, so for fun, I threw up this buy hex now little sign here, and
Mm-hmm.
just basically doing the inverse of hex price. How far down are we? We're 90% down. Sounds like that's a buy to me, right? So it's not there's not a lot of intelligence built into that. Um, but just to answer his question.
So when we go back to a new all-time high, this would be zero or what?
Yeah, but then I'll have to delete it though, because I'll still say buy hex now. Right? but but it was kind of like, hey, look, just a quick way to try something out and put it up here. Um, for those who haven't been to the
Mhm,
site or haven't used this type of software before, I do have a kind of like a menu system over here on the left that you can go down through and select what you want, and even look at specific pages that you want to go to. Some of it probably change over time. A couple of
mhm,
navigation buttons to go back and forth.
mhm,
But generally, when you go to each one of these different spots, you'll see the information that's here. Um, you can dig into more information about how it might be filtered on this page if it's applicable. When you go over, to these different items, you can even go on these graphs, and we'll see some more extensive ones, and look at these different points, and it'll kind of track the data for you. And of
mhm,
course, we've got the X and Y axis.
mhm.
So just some basics about that. And I was trying to figure out, and this I've been taking, information from people, trying to figure out.
Just oh no, oh no. Sorry. I was was reading wrong. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, I was trying to figure out what would people want to see on the screen. So a couple things I threw right up here were things like best months to end a stake, and being able to do that and coming in and saying, okay, well, let me look and see when in the near future there are very low payouts. And so the lowest month in the near future looks like it's October at
Mhm.
792 million coming out. And
October in 1 year, no? Yeah.
yeah, and we can look at a larger chart than that, but just trying to grab some snippets. And then I thought it'd
Mhm,
also be interesting to show some of the largest stakes in the last couple of days that have come out,
Mm-hmm.
or excuse me, have started. You know, like so from the last day to date, an 82 million
Ah,
hex
yeah,
stake
here is
started.
is start, yeah, and then ended. Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah, and then you see one that ended, and then you know, so you can see
Is
what
is like this 82 million staker? Is he like only staking for a couple of days always, or what?
I'd have to go look. I haven't looked at them, but we can do that.
Because
And
like you see that the the 8th of July, it's like he started and ended the stake.
yeah, let's go look and see. We're gonna go
Yeah.
look at it because we know it's 82 million, and that's actually a great way to kind of get into why this might be useful. And then to answer Jay in the chat, when you look at these large jumps in T-share rate, typically they are, I don't know about bigger, but they're longer-ish stakes. But we can actually go look at the ones that cause those increases at a different time and see why they happen. So to go find
And
this,
just something to add, because Jay here, I guess, is thinking, okay, that's the longer stakes because they have the big payday. It's not actually about the big payday bonus so much. It's more about like the length of the stake. So, of course, if it's an early stake, it also has the big payday bonus, but it's not that with the big payday bonus it spikes more or something like that. It's really about how long is the stake? So a 980-day-old stake from the beginning has a pretty high chance of moving up the share rate. Or actually, a good question here: did you already found out if like a basic stake, so let's say with 0 point something of bigger base better bonus, is if it was made like in the first 2 weeks, is that actually moving the share rate or not, because the little stakes are moving it like higher, and only the 10% long stakes, so with the biggest amount of bigger pays better, are actually moving the share rate? Or did you already run some analysis on that?
I have not, but I will. I will.
All
And
right.
see what happened with that. My so I think that I know for certain that there are stakes that started after Big Payday that have increased the rate. So I mean,
Mhm.
as far as that being true, that's true. Now, what the difference is and whether those are these big ones or those are kind of like the mid-sized ones are really a question. But let me take that down to go look at. I'll look at that afterwards because I don't have a panel up here to actually get to it right at the moment.
Mhm.
In other words, I waste all you guys' time. So what we want to do is we're going to look and see what's going on with this staker. Let's go see what's been happening here. So what we can do is go over and look and see. We're going to go get that address. And so I'm just going to go to the HEX staking data. And it's just my attempt to try to get this information out there in a way that we can find. And I'm going to go look at the open stakes that we have. And I'm going to say, throw in a filter in here, and if we can do it. I don't know if I turned it off or what, but oh, maybe it's not. There we go. All right. Hard to see sometimes on the smaller screen. What I was
Mm.
trying to do is get to 728. So let me see if I can do that. I might have not allowed it on this screen. There we go. All right, so 728, and then let's go to. Sorry, guys, I'm typing it in otherwise. All right,
Mhm.
so we can see
No,
everything
all
that's there.
good.
Now, I didn't change a lot on the screen because there's so many stakes that are happening.
Yeah,
You know,
and when
with
you
the new
now
data.
can you now filter like with the amount with hex staked?
Yeah, what I'm going to do here is this. We can go by. Let's just go by largest stakes first. We'll go down from the top and see what. what's been put out here. So we've got this 19 million. So I might have missed it by a day, depending on when that other number we were looking at. But let's say this was the one we wanted to look at. This is a
Mm-hmm.
19 million hex stake with 165,000 yield for a 31-day period. So we can go in here and do a quick copy of the value, and I'm going to drop it into over here. There's probably some other ways I could make this active, so we could do it and just like click on it and click through, but I haven't quite gone there. So it looks like at least under this address, this is just one stake that's there,
Mm-hmm.
and that one stake, you can
Are you
see.
sure, or because you have still the date filtered?
Yeah, it's because of oh yeah, that's true, right? But in this period of time. So
Yeah,
let's go
but
change
I
that.
would need to filter that like to 2037, for example, and then I would see all the stakes the address made, right? Or has no all the stake. Do I see all the stakes which are open
Yeah,
or
here we go. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Well, sometimes I'm a victim of what I put together, because on this one I limited it to open stakes for a period of time. So yeah, yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
I did exactly as you said. Thank you for that. And
Yeah, you're
we
welcome.
can look and see that at the moment, 23 point something million is actually too small for me to read on the screen, because
Mm-hmm.
I've got a share screen. Um, but we see that we've got the 23.3 million with an estimated overall payout of 34.6. And then you can
Mm-hmm.
see the ROIs on the right-hand side here listed. So this is just some of the ways we can begin to get at the data and to slice it. And originally, I just had this wide open where you could just,
It's actually an interesting wallet, don't you think? Because it's only like 100, 200, 300. Uh, it's like 4 million hex staked uh, for mid or long term, and only the 20 million like with the monthly one, and
yeah,
all the others are like just little smallish stakes.
that's true.
Oh, yeah, interesting, interesting. Or do we also need to change the start date in order to see the whole thing? Like go back to
You won't
2020.
be able to see much of anything in the past on this one. That's why I was like, not getting the response on it,
Ah, okay,
because limited it to open. That's why I said I'm kind of a victim of that.
okay, yeah,
I can do it on in the background in the dev environment, but I
yeah,
had limited it to that because I wasn't going after historical
hmm,
stakes. So I
yeah,
think maybe you just identified, um,
hmm.
being able to do that. And one of the reasons for that is I really didn't want to super confuse people by coming in here and then they see all this different information and all that. But let me look at that. You think adding it here so you could just see all stakes would be useful?
No, like all the open stakes. I was just like questioning if that is like all the open stakes of this account when I put in like the start date of today, or if I also need to move the filter like back to like 2019, 2020.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think this is the answer here. And so we can come in here and it's going to be on or after the 28th is the expected end date. So it's not going to show all the open stakes on here because this guy might have some that are expired, right?
Ah, yeah, okay,
Um,
but those are like the open active stakes, neither which aren't late,
right,
so
right.
without
And
any late stakes. Hmm.
yeah, so I'll need to, every time I have a conversation, there's more stuff to do. So so I can look here. I'm looking at unclaimed hex. I would navigate it over, and I don't show this address at all in here for unclaimed. Um, and really, this is a different presentation of the same data.
Mhm,
So it's just I put it on different pages for different
mhm,
purposes. And if I come in here to see if that person's ever good accounted, has any good accounted, no good accounted either.
mhm.
So
And if you go here, just like because I would like to at HEX Staked, if you could filter that for a moment, like the line HEX Staked,
Hmm.
because there should be like
Oh
eight
yeah.
eight really big ones, right?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
there we
Yeah.
go. So all those 66 million and upwards, those were those stakes were the good accounting of the origin address which John Wick did in March.
Yep. Those are them.
Oh no, good accounting date. No, it was like September last year. Okay, I thought that he made something this year in March as well.
Well, there's all sorts of there's a lot going on with all this, Patrick, right? Because he's not the only one who's doing this, and so at one
On the
point, right?
9th of December it was. Yeah, it was December. Sorry. Yeah, all good.
Yeah, yeah, but when you look at it, at one point we had you know well over a billion, 2 billion that were sitting expiring, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't go to count until you're past the end date for a
Yeah,
stake.
yeah.
And so it's sitting there expiring. And so our conventional logic, and I think you and I talked about it, right, at one point, is there's a trade-off between, whether or not going in good accounting a stake is a liability for the community, or is it a gift, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the liability part is that whoever is the owner now has 172 million hex that can be ended and brought into the market,
Yeah.
right? So that's the liability side as we describe it. The scarcity side of it, or the gift side, is, well, what if this is an address that's never going to pull it out or take it out? And if that address is never going to take it out, then we just created a situation for scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can see that replaying over and over again with lots and lots of stakes. And so there are hundreds, if not thousands, of stakes that have been good accounted by other people,
Mm-hmm.
other than the people that own those accounts. And the purpose of that is that when that, and I know I'm preaching to choir because you know about this, but the purpose of that is to return the T shares to the, take them out of the pool so it no longer eats up any of the yield, but also to distribute the penalty.
But it is
Neither,
kind of a trade-off you what you need to decide to do here, because when it comes like to the big ones, to the OA stakes, there I actually agree with good accounting them in yeah, like once they are due. But with all the others, I would love to see to leave them 2 years late, because then we don't run into the risk that the actual owner of the stake comes back in the future and still finds, like in this case, millions of hex. Yeah, on the right hand side you see like the numbers with available to mint. And even if a lot of those stakes here, they waited like nearly a year or even over a year, but still they can come back in the future and
mhm.
have access to a bunch of hacks. So I guess the better trade-off for normal stakes outside of the OA would be to just wait the 2 years. And I mean, if the person himself comes back within the 2 years, yeah, okay, fine, he gets some hacks out. And if not, then after the 2 year period you can run the GA function, because then all the hex, all the value of this whole stake would get redistributed to the hex stakers.
You're yeah, I'm right there with you. Um, of course, that's not happening
Yeah,
now. Why?
we
How can
see
how can
that
how,
people don't wait
how
so
can
long. Yeah,
well, and they have a different theory. Now, I'm not supporting it, but if I go over to the unclaimed hex file, I can look and see what's happening out here, right? So
yeah.
for whatever reason, there are
Can you
still,
can you can you filter that with the percentage burned?
yeah, yeah. So if we want to go, for instance, let's just go 100. Let's just go 100%.
Yeah.
So what, because I was originally looking very closely at this to see what kind of late penalties there would be. And there
Yeah.
used to be stakes that I would have expected by now in the 30s, 40,000, 100,000 range. But all of these are 100% burned. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the key the key part is that the cost to even go to count them is so
It's too high.
expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's so expensive. But once in a while, there are some little ones in here. Like we look at the first one, see how many days. Sometimes it's not so bad. Like this one's probably fairly cheap to do. You know, it's only 2 months that it needs to be calculated. It was only staked from May until the end of July. So what's that, three
Oh, yeah.
months?
Ah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
but it would still be fairly expensive for the return, but it does clean up the system, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you can come in here and look at those and all those different ways and you know, see, you know, whatever you like as far as the ones that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
And we can look at the biggest one. Well, so this player here, you know, this particular address, I can only gather that this person really is deliberately doing this because I'm able to go out to the blockchain, see that they're active. They've been an active staker. Now, it could be that maybe they lost track, but I don't know how you lose track of that kind of stake.
Yeah.
Um, but it could be.
I forgot about my 18 million hex stake. I don't know if that is.
Well, you know, people drink, people do things. You know, I mean, I've woken up more than once in the years past and said, "Would it happen?" You know, maybe you know, one night I bought Bitcoin by accident. You know, woke up in the morning and was like, "What the hell happened?" I fell asleep with my phone in my hand. Who knows? The staking might be a little more difficult to do that. Um, but this person is a very successful person. When you look at that, you can go do the chain analysis. Um, they have done transactions recently. There's no
Okay, yeah.
reason they couldn't be in here doing it, but they did not. And so now it's 75 days late. And after your 2 week period of
One% per week, yeah,
yeah,
the
it's one
loss.
percent per week. So we're about almost 9 weeks in, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's 3 million that's going to come back to the stick class.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So yeah, yeah. Anyways, I know we went down a rabbit hole, but these are some, you know, real
Mm-hmm.
question kind of leads you
Mm-hmm.
down to look at
Yeah, and
this.
and I also would have like one thing to add to the good accounting of OA stakes. Yeah, what John Wick did in the end of last year, I would I would have done it a little differently because I would have ended each and every OA stake or good accounted it on the 15th day in order um, to reduce the 3.69 total inflation by a little bit because in the grace
Uh,
period they would still get the potential payout, but once you click the function then the code realizes, ah, there was no payout for this, so this is like lost inflation kind of thing. And then on the 15th day, in order to give all the hex takers like 1 day of penalty as well.
yeah, that would have been interesting to do.
Yeah, because
Um,
and I also, if I do it on the 15th day, then I give the owner, the potential owner of this potential daughter address of the OA, the chance to good account himself, within the 14-day period. Because I would have been really, really curious to find out if somebody is acting there, or
mhm,
someone or
mhm.
something. And he did it like on the 12th day or something like that. So maybe the owner of this particular daughter address would have done something, and I would like to uh, to see that at the next time, end of the year when the next OA stake comes out. To just wait the whole 14 days and then a community member can potentially act on the 15th day.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, here's the great part, right? You and I are participants in the system, and so is that other guy, and so is John Wick,
Mhm.
and we can do whatever the hell we want to do because it's decentralized.
That's true, yeah.
And now
But
I could
I
see,
just, I just want to talk about that because in
yeah,
my point of view, even John Wick would like this strategy, and maybe he waits this time a little longer.
maybe next time. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I've kind of resigned myself to the fact that I can't be angry. I'm not angry at anything, but I mean, I
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't be upset because like I had a whole thing I was planning to do for this November when all these stakes got to 100%. I wanted to make sure we ended them and get them good accounted. Somebody's spending a lot of money early to get them done,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and so but there's a strategy to that too, because perhaps in the short, because it's all game strategy, perhaps in the short term, well, those people who, yeah, sure, they have hex stuck in their wallet, but they're being, that extra yield that comes out because their stakes are ended,
Yeah,
and
because the shares are out of the
yeah,
total. Yeah.
and the thing moves forward, they're getting left behind. So maybe there's an argument for, maybe it doesn't matter, in a year or
Mm-hmm.
2 years if somebody comes back. And plus, I think, as you know, and we'll have to dig into this further at some point. There are so many people just forgot they had sticks.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
mean,
just to take a question from the audience about HSI stakes. So this website tracks all the stakes, right? Because it tracks like the movements of the Hex smart contract, and the HSI stake is also like a Hex native, as is also made with the Hex smart contract.
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Well, and I think that, yeah, it does track them. I know Blue's asked about that a couple times when we've talked. I'm trying to get to maybe doing some breakouts on derivatives, because in
Mm-hmm.
my mind, with the site that I have in mind and what I'm thinking about, it's about earning passive income. And so I'm not going to, the focus isn't off of Hex, but as part of Hex, hey, Hadron's part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing what's happening with HSIs and all the rest, so maybe that'll be a separate effort. I don't know. I don't know. But as far as the stakes being included, Patrick, yeah, they're all included.
Mm-hmm.
They're all included. All right,
Yeah.
so we probably should get back onto the
And
plan.
then obviously also all the staker app stakes, yeah, which are made like with a new address over the Gnosys Smart Safe. So
Yep,
they
yep.
those are obviously included as well. Cool.
Yeah, yeah, they're included as well. I'm able to find mine by putting in the address and
Mm-hmm.
pull it up. So a couple things. Yeah, I keep having parking lot things come up. So like I said, we might be here for too long. Um, but we did say we were going to talk about this. So let me dig into this and explain, and then at least we'll get the top one off the list. So we have this screen here, which is my. It's a speculative estimate. It's a model, um, and we'll go look at the data here. I'll just show you the navigation for it first. There is a button here to go in through and see this and get back to. You go look at this panel that shows actual predictions. Okay, and you can also kind
Mm-hmm.
of go to look at the actual chart in a different way. So I've
Mm-hmm.
tried, hey, I'm not the best web UI guy, but I'm able to at least make it so we get around. So you can also get to it through the charts tables, right? And get over here.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's the same thing going back and forth through here.
And
Uh,
can I also extend this chart to get like until November 2030 or not?
Not yet,
Not yet.
because
Uh-huh. Okay.
because I don't want to scare anybody.
You
There's
don't want to scare anybody, okay?
Well, when that number starts, and we'll look at the other panel, you'll see it. When it starts getting up to 120, 130,000 hex per T share, there's that aspect of it's kind of a little bit of shock value. It's like Richard saying, putting up a chart that's showing hex going to 1 million is almost like unbelievable. So I mean, I believe it, but I mean, it's just so much to comprehend that it might be counterproductive.
Okay.
That's one end of it. The other end of it, as I go through to explain what I'm doing with the calculations, is that the further out I go, the less accurate
Yeah.
this will be.
Yeah,
And that
because I just like to explain the because the um the share rate is also depending on the staking ratio, meaning like how much of all the hex in existence is actively staked and how much is not. Because the yield in hex is only hex inflation, and the yield or this inflation only goes to those people who actively stake their hex. So if more and more people are actively staking their hex, this staking ratio goes up, that would bring the global APY a little bit down,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
means that also big old stakes are getting a little less hex than in the days before, for example. And that means that they are getting to a smaller total return of investment, and then the oldest, biggest stake does not have such an impact on the share rate. So if we say okay, now the ratio is like 10%, and we just go with this 10% ratio into the future, but then in the future, in 2 years, for example, we don't have only 10% anymore, we have like 15%. Then those projections are way off, because from this point where we have the 15 on, all the stakers get a little less payout per T share, and that's why the share rate would also spike a little less.
Exactly. So I think you're exactly right. What happens is that the daily payouts determine, well, the staking behavior of the community determines the daily payouts, the inflation numbers, share rate, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's all brought together through the calculations. And so, yes, that's exactly true. Is depending on what happens with the share rate, and in conjunction with what happens with the payouts, it changes how things will look in the future, right?
Yeah,
And,
I right now I see like a number which interests me as a nerd in this system. Um, where does it come from that you are estimating that the share rate increase like year by year will go down percentage wise? Because if I go like increase from previous year, it's like going down slightly.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's going outside. I think that's a function of there being fewer. Well, I'll go through the calculation first. Maybe we can get into it. But I think we have fewer stakes out longer periods of time. Um, and so they've
Mhm.
had less time to accrue, a significant upswing in payout. And so I think we're going to see that will fill in later. Like I don't expect 5 years from now that this will be the same. I think that I think you're going to see that these years will rise up higher and higher.
Okay,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
but,
yeah.
but there's all sorts of anomalies I can't explain necessarily, that have to go get investigated. Like, why does that happen? That's another reason why at the tail end, and plus at the tail end, it just goes flat at 2036, 37, and that's because there are enough stakes already made that end in 36 that will have a higher T-share, calculation, new share rate calculation than the 237s, 2037s. And so it just flattens out. But we go along another year or two, that may all change. So
Mhm.
again,
Yeah, and it will also change like short term, right? Because with all the short term stakers, which is only like this kind of this wall, which gets rolled over month by month by month when you look at Hex Vision.
yeah, yeah,
And this will still be the case in 2035, 2036, 2037. And in your model, of course, there is no short-term staker in 2037 included, because it's just not possible.
right, right. Now, what is possible is to build some new models that go out to 2100. But
Yeah, that's true. But then you would also need to make a lot
a
of
lot. A
base
lot of assumptions.
assumptions,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
if you're like a little bit off with your assumption on a 15-year scale, and let's say on year 9 you're 5% wrong, until you're 15 your model is like way off reality.
yeah, yeah. Well, and so let's talk about the numbers just for a minute, and then we'll kind of go through this.
Hmm.
If we look at this one panel over here on the right, which says new share rate
By day.
by day,
Hmm.
I 99%, I would take a bet with anybody that this will be the next new share rate.
Yeah, but only
Because
99% because you cannot predict penalties, right?
yeah, well, that guy could go do something, right? He wants to win the bet with me so
Yeah, yeah,
bad. He
yeah,
changes,
yeah.
but
It's like-
he changes the entire system. But this number is dead on, right? But that'll probably be the number that the share rate goes up to next.
Mhm,
But it may not, right? Now, why is that? Why is that? It's because for every you have to envision it as every day, and I know you know this, but for the viewers, you have to envision it this way. Every day there are hundreds of stakes that are ending. Every stake is going to have the new share rate calculation.
mhm,
So every one of them is in the foot race to win. Every one of them.
mhm,
The only ones that win are the ones that make it to the finish line and get ended. So there are some that won't end, and because for whatever reason, and they won't increase the rate
mhm,
because they just don't end.
mhm,
Um, and then there's others that will make it, and they'll get there just a little too slow, and so they won't increase the rate. And then the next guy increases the rate. So think of it as a funnel. All hundreds of those stakes all vying to be first, and whichever one gets ended on that day that's the highest is the one that gets to change the rate. Okay.
yep,
Now, now how it's calculated is this is what I'm doing is I'm looking at the actual the actual yield, and taking the yield and the principal and putting it through. It's kind of like a reverse calculation, but the calculation that the contract does,
mhm,
and to come up with a new share rate. And then I just look at the new share rate and say, hey, is it bigger than the last one? Yes. Hey, that's the winner, right? You win.
mhm, mhm,
Now, what I don't know is what future yield will be. So I've settled into using the 30-day moving average
mhm,
of daily payout. So that's how this calculation's done. The reason I think that we'll go up to 73 the next day is we've got one more day of principal, probably at 6.128. And that 6.128 in payout times the T-share and put into this calculation will yield this.
mhm,
And so
mhm,
in this way, what I'm able to do is to calculate for every stake that exists in the future what it's probable based on the 30-day moving average, right?
mhm,
What its probable payout will be. So again, why I would say that, or excuse me, not payout, but change will be. That's why I say near term, it's more likely that because we can look at the 30, 60, 90-day averages and see what the payouts have
mhm,
been. 6.2 would be reasonable, right? 6.18. But we don't know what's going to happen a year, 2 years from now. That's why I say you get out a couple of years, the numbers could be way off, and they could actually go
mhm.
down a little bit, right? I mean, that's possible as well, because you just don't know.
The daily payout per T-shirt, you mean, could
Yeah,
go
yeah,
down as well. Yeah.
yeah, and if that goes down, then that will blunt these a little bit,
Mhm,
right? And in terms of, and I should say, what would go down is not T-share rate, but what would go down is the
it's
increase in T-share rate,
mhm,
the percentage increase. And so this is just an extrapolation based on that, and then you can get out to by month. We thought it'd be interesting. I got some feedback from some people, so I thought it would be interesting to do the percentages and just show that information to get all the way out to the year and see what the increases over the year will be.
and I know why November, December, and January shows you the same percentage, or like 0% for December and 0% for January. I guess that's because the next OA stake is about to end in the end of November or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And
We'll look at that one. Yeah.
yeah, and here is like the assumption that this, I mean, obviously at first you need to assume that each and every active stake gets end staked at the date it it was supposed to end stake. But here, like with November, December, January, uh because I think that the OA itself will not end stake the coins as it didn't do like in the last one. So maybe again like a community member good accounting it, but then a good accounting is not moving the share rate, right?
Um, Good accounting will not move the share rate.
Yeah,
Not in the not based on that stake ending because it didn't end. It
yeah,
may have
because it didn't end. Yeah.
other system effects. Yeah, and you know what's a good observation too, when you dig into the data and look too, is that yeah, it's likely that the OA stake, it maybe it is the one that pushes it up, but it might not be. But here's the thing: is let's say the
No,
OA
no,
stake.
it will be because it's a stake with a huge bigger pays better, and we know that it was made in the first 2 weeks of the Hex smart contract.
Yeah, I'll concede that that could be the case. I haven't looked to verify it. It is the one that makes that increase, but what I'm going to say next doesn't matter. So the reason I say it doesn't matter is there are going to be other stakes out here that
Yeah.
are going to come pretty close to that number and be building up
Ah,
to it.
yeah,
And
that's
by the
true.
time
Yeah.
you get to February, you'll be at you'll be somewhere at 26,
Yeah.
25 anyways, because
Yeah.
that's how the system works, right?
Yeah.
And it'll just keep building.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we need like a extra nerd show because then I just go into the data and I we go look this stake up and go see what's happening with it and which one it is. Um,
Yeah, I mean, we can do so from time to time. We can do a nerd stream together, like a week before the OA stake is supposed to end or something like that.
yeah, yeah. Well, and so then here's the big question, Patrick, right? Well, what does all this mean to the guy, average person, right? What do we care? Um, so I went through this whole process and I said, you know, at the end of it, I came out and said, hey, T-share rate goes up. well, well, I already knew the T-share rate went up, right? So I probably could have spent a lot less time just believe that T-share rate went up. Other people looked into it, but here's the thing. This is how I end up doing it. Is I was staking back in May, right? And I waited on something, and I didn't see the 700 increase,
Mm-hmm.
and so then I ended up staking in June. So here's the practical use case for people. All right. I get that you have to have whatever cash it is you're going to put in and whatever you're going to do, not financial advice. You're making a decision to stake. So it's got to be available to you. But if you get to September, you know, beginning of September, and you're waiting to do a stake and you're like, I'm just going to wait another week. Don't wait another week. Go look at the chart because it's going to increase. The cost of the T-share will increase probably 3-4%.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the practical use of something like this
Mm-hmm.
is to be able to know that. And the other big practical use is just to show visually to people the
What
magnitude.
will happen in the future? Yeah. So like right
Yeah,
now we are at 23,000. Please don't wait till the end of the year because then your rate might be 26,000.
yeah, exactly, right. Because like I could put off a lot of stuff. I mean, the best time to stake is now with all of your
Yeah.
resources you intend to allocate. It's always now, right? But you know, most of us did not have the funds to go do that all at one time you know, in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you would just have one and done. Now, some people did, but you'd just be one and done. You build your ladder and you're done. Then you
Yep.
just execute the ladder. But if you're like most people and you're DCAing and it takes some time, you need to build up to it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's. Hey, did we get any questions we need to answer on this?
Oh, I need to exit my full screen as well because looking at those numbers, I also went into full screen mode. If we're bleeding.
Yeah. Okay. So the last one I see is Jay was talking about the bleeding stakes.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. That's right.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
all.
but the thing is, we don't know if the owner really does not have access to the stake or not. And that's why I just disagree on the good accounting those stakes earlier than 2 years late,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because
And
it's not so much difference, so like the potential higher payout per t-share, because the pool is smaller, is not so much more than the potential risk of those people coming back in the future.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then and one of the questions that I think in the beginning, a lot of us had misunderstandings of until Kyle explained it to us.
Hmm.
Um, I always thought that when you were getting those penalties, it was coming out daily. I didn't recognize till much later that you had to run a function that either somebody had to GA or end it for the penalties to actually
Yeah, it
come
was
out.
for me, it was also Kyle who like really made it clear for me that I understood that the hex code is just a genius thing, but it's dumb. It does not do
Mm,
anything if nobody pokes it. If nobody runs a function. So all the bleeding stakes, all the late end stake penalties, they are only paid out when somebody runs a function to the specific stake. It's not like they are like uh, because the word bleeding out may be a little bit misleading here, because if you say bleeding out, then of course everybody thinks that okay, they are like bleeding out from the third week for 2 years, 1% every week, and this 1% every week is like distributed to the stakers as well. That's not the case. So
yeah,
only if somebody runs a function in the hex code, only if somebody does something with the hex code can can update itself.
yeah, yeah. That's exactly it. All right, I think that was.
And
I'm
then,
off
like,
the
to the
screen.
last question here on the chat, if I think that bleeding stakes should not be good accounted, um, I don't want to say a concrete yes or no to that question. I would say bleeding stakes should only be good accounted once they are 100% bleeded out, or at least like 95. No, actually 100% bleeded out, because in my point of view, it's the risk of those people finding their seed phrase and coming back when hex is like at $10, at $100 or something like that, is higher than this risk is higher than to wait a little bit longer and then good account those stakes.
Yep, yep, yeah. And as I pointed out, there must be some people that disagree with us, so they're doing it.
And then,
Um,
like, the last question is also interesting when we talk about the OA stakes, because they have like those 60 million, 80 million volume. Are wouldn't it be better to wait for those stakes as well until they are fully bleeded out? What is your
I
take on that?
I think that's certainly a game theory, right? I think that you know I honestly don't know which is better. You know, Be,
I kind of, I mean, what is better, but my answer to that would be no, with the only with the OA stakes, because we just know from history that the OA never sell the single hex. There, I would do it on the 15th day to give
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the
You
whole
said
staker
that.
class this 1 day of penalties, and then free all those shares, because just think about if you don't do that and then they start bleeding and bleeding and bleeding and bleeding. On a certain point, you will have somebody coming by to good account them even before the 2 years are off, because the longer they wait, the more hex there is like for penalties. And then let's say the OA stake ends 1st of December, and my personal stake ends the year later in the end of May. And then in the end of May, I might go and good account those OA stakes to get like one huge payout day, because then it will only be like on this day all the late end stake penalties, in order to get this yield for my stake as well. And then on the next day, I end stake, my personal stake. So there is
Yeah.
like a lot of game theory involved, and that's why I'm saying no. Let's move out those T shares on the 15th day to give the whole staker class only 1 day of penalty, and then have those shares removed in order to rise the daily payout per T share for everybody. Because if we wait for the OA stakes, then it's just like everybody in the system can decide when is the day of a higher payout, you know?
Okay, here's your chance.
Here's my
Allegedly,
chance.
allegedly, I don't know this is for certain. Allegedly, this address, because we were looking at it before, has 3 more stakes. These are daughter OA addresses,
Yeah, yeah.
coming out here soon, right? So,
Origin address hex staking data. Okay, yeah, interesting.
right.
Yeah,
So
like
these,
in 100 days, like I said, like in the end of November, right?
that we have end of October, but yeah, close
Ah,
enough.
yeah,
Close
okay,
enough.
yeah,
End
yeah.
November,
And here is
and
end of
November.
November. Yeah,
Two, and actually three in November, 4 in
yeah, it's
November,
like on one address or on two
right after
addresses there
day
are
after
like
day.
8 9 stakes, and here you also have like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 stakes in the within 12 days.
Yeah, so I mean, we're going to have our opportunity to see what you want to do. The
Yeah.
thing is, I think the thing is for us, right? We don't. What are we going to do? You know, I mean, are we really? Is there any way for us to stop it from happening? You
Hmm.
know, we could talk about it.
Oh, here it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and get the
Hmm.
word out to people. But this opportunity is going to come up. You
Hmm.
know, and it's 1.4 billion in that time frame. I think this is based on Das Baum and Gunther's work originally. I think
Hmm.
there's or this is origin address
Yeah.
related, and
Hmm.
there we go. But here's the thing for the T-shares. Honestly, not that much in T-shares. I mean, 95,000 is a lot, but I mean, I'd like you to give me 95,000. But
Yeah, who doesn't like
but out of
95,000 t-shirts?
yeah, but out of 10.4 million, not so much. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, I
But
mean, but it depends, you know, because if you would calculate 95,000 T-shares to be in the pool for 2 more years, then I guess it's worth it to remove those shares early on.
yeah, yeah. I mean, 100,000 times 600,000 a day. Yeah. I mean, rough numbers. I'm not just
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
600,000 a day.
yeah.
So,
So
hundreds of millions over a couple of years, probably.
yeah, that's why. So I would rather, because like current tax, okay, estimated payout. So 1.4 billion is estimated payout. So after 2 years, there would be only 1.4 billion hex to be redistributed to on one single day to the whole staker class if we would wait the whole 2 years. And as you already calculated, 95,000 T-shares times 6 point something, let's say like 600 hex per day. That times 2 years is more than 1.4 billion. Am I wrong on that? Let's calculate it. 600,000 times
Yeah, it's a lot.
365, and again, no. Ah, So 2 years is 730. So 600,000 times 730 is, no, it's only 438 million.
Only, only.
Yeah,
It's still quite a bit.
yeah,
You
it's
know.
still quite a bit.
Yeah, I think like Blue Bomb's asking. You can go through those calculations, like just what we're doing. You kind of figure out, well, if you end it, if you good account it, how much more interest comes out to everybody, and in the staker pool, and you can compare that up to waiting, and then
Hmm.
what happens with other effects, and that's
Yeah,
why it goes back and forth. We have lots of
yeah, and I mean my main point on this is because it it's just more fair if I good account it on the 15th day, because otherwise somebody will say, ah, my biggest stake ends like in 2 weeks, and now we are like 20% in the bleeding out of the away stakes, and now I go ahead and good account that in order to get for my biggest stake this penalty payout as well.
Yeah.
And that's like a little, that's like not so fair, and that's why in my point of view we should good account it on the 15th day. That's like the fairest thing for everybody, for the whole staker class.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Hmm.
I'm with you. I understand. At least I understand your position, and why that
Hmm.
might be one way to go about it.
Hmm.
Um, so hey, since we ended up on this panel, just so people know, I took that list of OA stake addresses, excuse me, OA addresses, and this is filtered by that, so we can see an owner of origin address. So it's experimental because I don't know. I don't know if these are the right people or not, or the right addresses, but they look like they're right.
Yeah, you
And
have how much do you have? 9 or more?
total,
Yeah.
no, a lot more addresses than that. How many are staked?
Yeah, the staking
I don't know.
addresses.
I
It
don't know how
should
many. I'd have to go
because the
look.
staked addresses should only be between 9 or 11. I'm not sure if it's 9 or 11 right now. Yeah, but
Yeah,
9 for sure, might be 11.
it looks like that's probably about right.
Yeah,
I'm just
because it's on each
eyeballing
and
it.
every address there are like plenty of
Oh,
stakes. That's why
let's
it
do
looks
this.
like a lot, but
Yeah, here's the list that shows up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There might be some more below this. So, yeah, I can
yeah.
look at that separately. But yeah,
Yeah.
because I think there's more than 6 that I can just pick off the screen.
Hmm.
So if you wanted to come in here, you can come see when the OA is going to be coming out or not coming out. And that makes a difference because people make a lot of assumptions about all this hex coming out, and they look at the number and they're like, oh, it's big number and this month's a bad month, and it might not be. Um, to that point, let's go over and look at the monthly payouts. This is one of the ones that I wanted to show you about and talk about.
Hmm.
I know you've seen it. This is another one about what good is this to us, right? Why, I want to get the information out there, and if it's useful to you, it's useful. So we all know that if the longer pays better, right? Bigger pays better. So we got that. People make decisions of what they're going to do and when they're going to go out and do their staking. And while I'd make a strong argument for people to not stake 45 days or less, but 70%, maybe 80% of all our stakes that come out every month are 45 days or less. And
Hmm. On
those
average,
stakes,
yeah.
yeah, and those stakes are like, it's like it accounts for 3 point something billion hex every month. So number one thing, if you hear the FUD, that what are we going to do in August? Oh no, 5 billion hex is going to hit the market. Well, subtract 3 billion,
Hmm.
right? And the reason, now you can't guarantee that. Don't know what everybody's going to do. But what's happening is those guys that we saw, right, or ladies, they're rolling and they're doing exactly what was talked about in the beginning. Has nothing, even if we go back before Richard, right? When people talk about CD ladders, I know this is not a CD, but resembles that type of device. Um, why? How did my mother do it? She would buy CDs. When the interest came out, she'd spend the interest and, you know, buy another CD,
Keep, yeah, buy another CD.
right?
Keep on staking, yeah.
All right. So you come into Hex. That's how we talked about how this would be best used. Okay. So that's great. So, so that is good. Now, there are some people that are within this population doing the 45 days or less. Their motive, well, maybe there's at least 3 groups. One have motives that we may not quite understand why they're doing it. One of those is to increase the share rate. Okay, that's fine, right? So those people have that motive. Then we have some that just don't know. They just don't understand.
Yeah.
You know, and what do I mean by that? Is that they don't understand that going out just a few, just a few months increases quite a bit overall for them long term, what they get. And so, of course, they can do whatever they want to do, and not arguing that. So how do you use this, or how could you use something like this? Well, because if you're going to be staking, You can come here and look at different months, and there's different ways to look at it. I've got a couple panels for you, but look at different months that look like good times to probably have your stakes come out. So if you're looking to stake for a year, you might look at sometime in October, of 2023 as being a good time to end a stake, because the theory would be there's less supply on the
Mm.
market at the time.
But just like saying it every year in like November, the OA addresses are the OA data addresses who staked are coming out till 2030. So this number might be misleading a little bit. So because
It
in
is.
yeah, yeah.
It is. It is. I mean, it's like everything we look at. It's all going to be dependent on what actions those addresses take, you
Mm-hmm,
know,
mm-hmm,
and what actions new addresses take. They
mm-hmm,
may be quite a bit. So from that payout monthly payout panel, you can get to this chart or go directly to the chart, and boy, it really does show some cool info. Um, in that you can see um, you know, the amount of hex it's staked, which is orange versus what's yield. Now, again, this is based on that model, Patrick, of the 30-day rolling average for payouts.
mm-hmm,
So I'm,
mm-hmm.
I'm assuming this may all change, but it looks fairly consistent. And you can see which years the biggest amounts are coming out, and we had a large amount get staked for 20 at the end of 29 and also 30, because in my
Mm-hmm.
mind anyways, that's when we kicked off Hex at launch. uh, I don't know why I thought this, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. I was like, well, 10 gets me the biggest amount.
Yep,
I'm not going to be in
yeah,
for 15.
yeah.
And so I put stakes at 10 years.
2030. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
Or
then,
and if you say like in the beginning of Hex, so as Hex started in the months of December, that's why you also see the spike in the 2029 year, because that's like December 2029, or then like 2030 if the stakes were done in January, February, March of 2020.
yeah. And plus, sometimes people tried to front run. They were like, oh, okay, everybody's going to come out in November. So
Yeah,
November's not a good month. So let me bring them out in
do the
October.
summer,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
or August or whatever. Yeah.
So with that, you can come in here and do a drill down and go look at it. And let's look at that year.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, and there you see it like October, November, December. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So here we are. Here we all were sitting in 2019. Going. We're going to try to front run December. December's not the month. November, October, not so much back here. So if people are looking to get in and do some staking with their ladder, and they're looking at rungs in 2029, they probably don't want to do it for October, November, December. You would want to try to front run this. Now I
Yeah,
say front.
and not only price wise, also share rate wise, because the idea is still like to keep on staking like a share, like you explained with your grandma. You know, she used the interest but bought another CD. And here as well, like you can also use
Mhm.
the interest, but maybe you want to restake the principal at least. You know, for let's say at the end of your ladder at 5555 days after that, for example, then you really should consider to go with your stake before this October and November spikes, because I mean, at this specific year, we just know that there are a lot of early stakes coming out, like made in the first few weeks of the hex system. So that's why here we are extremely sure that this will spike the share rate, and that's why you should consider going with your stakes a little bit upfront of that, not only price wise, because we cannot predict the price. It can be like the months with the highest interest paid out ever, and it could also be this in the same months. It could also be an all-time high. That doesn't correlate too much, or do you think that it is correlating? Do you saw that last year in September, huge amounts of hex came out of new interest? So I didn't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I haven't put that together in my head yet. But so I have to think about that a little bit further.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, so this is us looking at October of 29.
2029.
And
Yeah.
let's say you really, 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 really want to stake to come out in October. So you can go down here and you can front run by a couple of days when all the rest of this hex come out. Now, this isn't 1 billion exactly, so you have to look at the numbers that are there. But and if you really wanted to, you could stake on the, for an end so you can collect on the 27th because it's a lonely day for some reason. It
Interesting. Yeah.
makes you wonder what was going on in people's heads that the 27th didn't get filled in. But while the rest of them seem to be very consistent, and maybe that's again an OA effect. I don't know. So from this perspective, you can come in here and get an idea of when all the stakes are ending, when it might be good time to try to front run and see what the best dates are. This is one way to do it. The other way I threw out here was let's go to advanced economics, the best times to stake panel. Now,
Hmm.
best times, quote unquote, you guys decide, right? Everybody gets to decide. But what you can do here is come in and look at what months and years will have the the lowest payouts, right?
Hmm.
So October of 37 actually has the lowest monthly payout.
Yeah, because
And
there are just like October 37. That would be the maximum stake length, right?
yep,
As
yep,
of right now, like 15.2 years. So just there aren't just a lot of stakes as of right now. Uh, that's why, no.
yep, very true. And
Hmm.
so, okay, let's throw that one out. And we're gonna say, well, I'm only gonna stake for next year, right? When
Hmm.
should I do it? So I pick 23, and now I can see that it looks like October of 23 also happens to be a great month
Hmm.
in relative terms to other months.
Hmm. Hmm.
Is it the best one? You get to decide. And you can do the same thing with days, right? So you can come over here by days, do a quick estimated payout, show me the lowest ones, and
Hmm.
see which day. Well, it's not, hey, guess what? It's not October. The lowest day is August 3rd. Um, so you can possibly look to set up end there. Now, what I'll caution everybody is this: is that yes, we look at these charts, and yes, we see that these days are low right now for payout. Yeah, but they're going to get filled in because people I do actively stake.
Yeah.
And because they're actively staking, they're going to hit that day eventually and put it in, or
Hmm.
maybe like you, they'll look for that day and put it in.
Yeah. And
But
it might be somebody who is like rolling over his stakes like every 45 days, and then you get like exactly to your date 50 million stake as well, the short term.
yeah, it could be any types of things. But what you are doing is by getting in early that day for whatever does happen with that day and that time period, by being the person who stakes the longest in that spot, you will have the greatest game advantage. Maybe
Yeah,
not in quantity, but in terms of
percentage wise.
a percentage overall leverage in the game.
Hmm.
So this is what this guy's all about. This panel, and again, I had gotten here by going to the advanced analytics. We had looked at the share rate model already. We already looked at the OA stuff, and then under staking data, we looked at all of these already too, right?
Hmm.
So estimated monthly payouts, different types of things that are here.
Yeah, so
Um,
just one shout out to the chat. So thanks for being active, guys. If you have any more questions, please now would be the time to ask that. And as you're already here, please don't forget to like and subscribe for the stream. And yeah, I don't see any new questions as of right now. Maybe people are just writing. What else do you have here?
I think that's we're. I mean, I'll just wrap it up and we can talk about some stuff if you want. If you want to dig into some data, or I've had you on here for an hour and 20 minutes already. Um,
Yeah, that's why. No, so I
yeah,
guess
so
within the next 10 minutes we will wrap that up because it's I guess or especially for for newer people who are watching the stream, they are already like getting a burnout here.
Yeah, probably hurting the brain. Listen, my head hurts. I'm trying to go through all this data. I'm making all sorts of new neural pathways, right? So I need that omega. Um, what's been happening as I go through this is, just keep coming up with new and more things to add. And so I'm digging into a lot of data. And again, it's about freeing it. It's not that any of this information isn't available to us. It is. It's all available to you. You could go accumulate this yourself through the blockchain.
Hmm.
But it can be cumbersome, and unless you're dev and you have those tools, but if you're that person, you're probably not so interested in this information. Um, so yeah, and so the reason I started working on this, besides getting my ideas out there, Patrick, is I am interested in this whole fire uh, kind of philosophy,
Hmm.
um, and I won't overpower our conversations with it. But Hex fits so well into it. It's
Oh yeah.
unbelievable. Because
I mean,
from
with Hex, I achieved fire, so to speak. Yeah,
yeah,
financial independence, and was able to retire early. Yeah, I'm familiar with the fire concept. Yes.
yeah, and me, I had started back in 2013, 14, even before crypto. Wish I had
Hmm.
thought about using crypto for it sooner, but once you realize what Hex is, you realize that if you had a plan that was going to take you to retirement, you can accomplish the same level of retirement. And retirement's loose, financial independence. But if you had a plan that is going to get you to financial independence, you
Hmm.
can do it at a minimum 3 times faster with Hex. And that's the big eye opener for me, because when I look at fire from outside of crypto, we're talking about counting on a 4% APY,
Yeah.
per year, and a little bit higher than that, but being able to get a good average so you don't draw down your assets. Um, so my thinking on that is that Hex is a natural fit, because when I'm in fire, what I'm looking for is passive income. I'm looking for real estate. I'm looking for a syndication deal. I'm
Hmm.
looking for stocks that pay dividends.
I
Um,
don't look too much for just pure speculation or trading. No, as you say, I'm looking for
yeah.
passive income streams.
Well, yeah, you're looking for the passive income streams, right? And
Hmm.
so it naturally is. I think this is one of the unbelievable things, and that's going on out there. Is eventually we will get more. We're already getting the adoption, but more and more adoption. People realizing that they can get the yield. I know other people talk about it all the time. That's very true. Very, very true. It's all about the yield. Um, so yeah, I think that's it for now. Now, what couple things I'm trying to work on, and uh, the as you know, the numbers get kind of funny. I am trying to work on some additional curves that we might apply to this
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm.
Now, I talked to this guy Hopper on Twitter, and he's got a curve that's a numeric curve. I say numeric, I guess they're all numeric, but his curve is derived based on day and rate increase. Um, and so one of the reasons I make this so small, in terms of years, if we look at this at 37, this looks like a straight line from the left to the right with a constant slope. Um, so you have that type of a curve
Hmm.
that's being applied here. One of the things I'm real interested in, it's for fun, maybe, you know, is going after something like this, where I can estimate what the total supply might be, um, based on that same information. Now, I granted
Hmm.
this is the same problem. This looks very, very high, guys, but it's like 2% a year
Yeah.
max on
Yeah.
average.
Yeah.
It looks a lot worse than it is how I depicted it.
Hmm.
But just trying to understand, because I've been bugging you for months, for years almost now. Every time somebody talks about that daily payout, I'm waiting for that hockey stick, man. I want to know what it's going to happen. Does it happen here? Does it happen here? I don't know when it happens. I'm trying to trying to get it because I want to, because it's just for entertainment, I think, because I don't think it
Yeah,
changes
but
much visually.
I also think it's pretty hard to predict, because as more and more people are coming in, as old people are pushing the weighted average staking lengths further into the future, we will still wait for the hockey stick to occur, because that's why we have this flat line. Because first, we got way more stakers than a year ago, and second, we increased the average weighted staking lengths, which also does not help in getting a higher payout per t-shirt for the individual staker. So yeah, I'm also curious to find out when this will happen.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. I see a couple questions that are kind of funny. Um, yeah, Jay, when you're talking about the bow wave and whether it matters not to plan out where to stake, yeah, I think it does. I think it does still matter because the bow wave is going to do what it's going to do. And that doesn't exist in the future when you're looking and planning out. It'll of course happen at the same time, but you have that. It's like a permanent fixture. You know, it's going to happen every month, anyways. So you always have the same potential risk. Now, what we could do is develop some sort of behavior kind of analysis that says, so all these people that do 45 days or less, what happens? What's going on with them? Because they lose quite a bit of their buying power per year in terms of yield. Um, what's happening to them? Are they exiting the system? Do they sell? Now we know that they restake because we're seeing it, but we can look at it a little bit more fine-tuned way, maybe.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
Interesting.
but you know, and then maybe predict what the effect is, but that'll just keep happening.
Hmm.
Um,
All right. I mean, thanks for this awesome presentation of your website hexfire.io. You already put down together a lot of awesome stats and cool things. So everybody who loves hex.vision will also like your site, I guess. And now, like in the end of the stream, just would you have any questions to me, or everything fine?
uh, no, no, not right now. I mean, you're pretty accessible. Yeah, so you know, I've been following. I have a poster of you on the wall. No, I don't. But we met. We've met before a couple times. Yeah,
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
and
we've met before. The
you
last
know,
time in at
uh,
the conference
in
in Vegas.
yeah, Vegas. I came out to Boston.
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah, you were there, right? Because well, of
yeah,
course,
yeah.
I
Of
think you were
course,
there.
of course, I was
You
there.
were
Yeah,
there. You were there for
yeah,
that. So yeah.
yeah. I mean, in Boston, I know why you say that, because Abid was still missing. He needed like another week to come back from Germany,
Yeah.
so he came back to New York and missed Boston. I I guess the Boston workshop I did with Kareem, right? Yeah, yeah, I did it with Kareem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And are you also coming to the next Vegas event, to the PulseCon?
Anything could happen. I don't know.
Anything could happen. Yeah,
Anything could happen.
if so, so please,
I'll
if
come down there.
you come there, please consider to also come like a day earlier, because we are doing a golf tournament on the 5th of
Yes.
September, the official kickoff event, and will be a nice day. And we have the whole golf course. We always also have like already plenty of sponsors, plenty of golfers, plenty of side events for the afternoon and so on. So will
Yeah.
be a pretty cool day. And then from the 6th to the 9th of September, the PulseCon, the actual conference days. And then
Yeah.
each and every evening there is already a Hexican OG throwing a party or
Yeah, I
doing
saw
something.
that. I
Uh,
saw that, but I could, yeah, get in some trouble. Try not to do that.
All right, Crispy Man. So thanks a lot for this awesome educational stream. Thanks a lot for putting this site together and show us like all the ins and outs, how to play around on the site, and what is there to play around. Also, thanks to the people who watched live. Thanks for your questions. If there is anything left, then please come to the Telegram chats. For example, I know that you are pretty active in the Hex Daily Stats Telegram chat, where you can find you, or at Crispy at Telegram as well, or you just leave a comment here, and then we um, answer you with the forwarding how to get your answer.
Yep.
Let's say, do you have any last words for the audience?
No, I'll just add on to that. Yeah, contact us or contact me with any requests or thoughts you have about changes, because really it's for people to use, and I don't have all the brain power. Need the extra brain power to figure all this stuff out. But what would be useful to us as a community? Other than that, hey, thanks.
Yeah. So tell us in the comments how you like the hexfire.io site, and if you have any suggestions what Crispy Band could also work on in the future. And that's it. Thanks for watching, and goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.